Operation Entrepreneur. My name is Mike Rice. My last spelling is R-E-I-S. I'm a white man with a blue shirt on right now. I am a he. And that R-E-I-S is spelled a little different. It's pronounced rice. I'm on every Chinese menu in Frankfurt. It is the true word for rice in Germany. So there you go. These jokes don't get any better today. So those are the jokes. As we prepare here, get this going, we also have Jasmine Garcia, who is our Northwest VBOC director, and I'm going to let Jasmine introduce herself.
Hi, welcome in everybody to our 2025 Operation Entrepreneur. I'm Jasmine Garcia, and I'm our newest Northwest VBOC program director. I am a very young looking Latina woman with dark long hair, medium skin, maybe caramel-ish perhaps, and I will be just alongside, and I will go off videos soon, but I just want to introduce myself to everybody. We'll be here for the next couple of days, and we do have one of our other great coaches in Alaska in the chat as well, so please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll have someone kind of moderating all your questions, and enjoy the presentation.
All right, thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate that. My pleasure to be presenting here today. I am a business advisor with the VBOC, and I cross-pollinate between our Northwest team and also our Alaska team, who will be on tomorrow, and you'll get to meet them directly. I've got a lot of experience in business, and so we're going to get into some of that stuff and talk about hopefully any questions you have and get into some things. Our main focus today will be getting your certification in the Veteran Business Ownership certification. So we'll focus a little heavily on that, and then we'll have a guest speaker here towards the end. So that's kind of the agenda that we're looking at right now. Okay. Unfortunately, due to some of the associated shutdown, we don't have our SBA guest on board here, but I want to introduce you to the current administrator, Kelly, and you can take some time and read the eye chart if you want. But the bottom line is that when they get that all situated, that Kelly's been instrumental in driving the VBOC agenda, the veteran agenda, and that's definitely what we want to focus on, is making sure that vets have the opportunity to get out there and own their own businesses. You come out of the military with an awful lot of skills, so we want to make sure that we capitalize on that for yourself and for the economy, of course. Okay. Here's a message from our president and CEO, Joe Tucker.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Sky Tucker, and I'm the president and CEO of Business Impact Northwest. Welcome to Operation Entrepreneur 2025. We are really excited to have you here. We have some amazing trainings for you as you embark on your entrepreneurial journey, or wherever you are in that journey. We are ready to help you and serve you. So we want you to sit back and relax. You're in good hands. Thank you for your service, and welcome again to Operation Entrepreneur 2025. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks for those words, Joe. He wasn't able to attend in person, but there we go. We got somebody coming in with their mics hot, so I'm going to go ahead and yep, if I could get the moderator to shut that mic down, please. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, well, this was another featured speaker that we were supposed to have today, who was going to go into the certification made simple. So you're going to get stuck with me. I'm going to do my best. I'm not the expert at this. And as a matter of fact, this process changed about 1.5 years ago or so, where it came over from the VA into the Small Business Administration. So what we'll do is we'll kind of direct you, and I'm going to got another slide here coming that will direct you into a lot of information. We can discuss some things. So if you got some questions and things of this nature, go ahead and put them in the chat box. Looks like we may have something going on in the chat box. Oh, somebody says, I'm almost as pretty as Anna. Well, I don't know that that's true. So, I appreciate you, Melissa. All right. First and foremost, one of the biggest things about this is that I think they've done a good job of simplifying the VOSB or Veteran Owned Small Business certification through the SBA. You'll see that I put a QR code out here if you want to kind of follow along or even go browse some of that information. What you're going to see is there's a ton, and I do mean a ton, and I think that's a quantitative term that you can use for the amount of information that's out there. What the process is, user guides, how-to videos, supporting document guides, lots of information out here. The big key here is to identify your eligibility and make sure that you're meeting the required eligibility right out of the gate. And there's a number of ways. Number one, obviously, we want you to be 51% ownership as a vet-owned business, and you need to be actively working inside that business. The other thing to remember is that there are rules around that vet-owned structure, and it can be laid out pretty easily on, as a matter of fact, these rules laid out really nicely, like whether or not you're a disabled veteran, and if you have to have somebody else operating your business, there's rules around that. If you have your business in a trust, then there's rules around that. So there's lots of great information related. But identifying your eligibility is going to be one of the big pieces right out of the gate. Okay. The second thing you're going to want to do is, because most of the time, the reason you're doing a vet-owned small business and setting that up is for the purposes to do government contracts and do business with organizations that focus on that. So registering with SAMS, you're going to try to get two numbers here. The first one is the UEI number. You're going to have the UEI. You get that at SAMS.gov, but they're also going to ask you if you want to register for a page number. I say go ahead and do it. It's not a lot of extra work. It's just a matter of going in there and saying, hey, I'm going to be able to do business with the government as well. So we got SAMS.gov, and we have you're getting a UEI number, and you're also getting your cage number. Okay. You're going to create your MySBA account. Now, there's some programming behind the scenes, I think, that took place when we brought it over from the VA and into the SBA. So just kind of follow along in the instructional manuals that are out on that webpage that you're staring at through the QR code. Okay. And if any time you need this information exterior or you've lost it, just reach out to us. We'll try to get you back into this material over here at the SBA certification knowledge base. Once you do all this, you're also going to start putting together functionally a checklist of things that you're going to need to apply. And most of this is preparation, right? For instance, your DD, you're going to need your business ownership information. Are you an LLC? Are you an S corporation? How are you set up? You're going to need a lot of this information. There's some, they give you a lot of documentation examples out there on the knowledge base as well, as far as, hey, I'm operating, and you have to certify that you're an operator and you're not just an investor in some company, that type of thing. So there's a number of things you want to do. Now, once you get all this together and you submit, there's a whole process around the filing, everything from putting your MySBA together to filing the application. And again, it's really, there's no reason for me to sit here and go through step by step when you can actually just go right out here in this knowledge base and get it yourself. But once you do this, and once you have all the documentation in place and you submit that button, it's going to go through its process behind the scenes that verifies all that stuff. So that way we can get you registered as a veteran-owned small business. Okay. After all said and done, we're ready to go. There's a group that I want to introduce you to, and the group's called Apex Accelerator. Apex Accelerators, their whole focus is to help small businesses get government contracts. They were put together by the Department of Defense and funded, I should say, from the Department of Defense, because they wanted to make sure that bids that are coming back in to government contracts are competitive. And so they've been around a while, but their whole focus is help small businesses gain access to and get and achieve government contracts, and not just the federal contracts. It can also be state contracts, city, county, those types of things. And we have a lot of contacts in the Pacific Northwest with our Apex Accelerator people, and including, excuse me, in other states if you need it. So just gonna need to set you in the right direction. They've got a program over at Apex that's really an incredible value. It's called Bid Match, and that Bid Match takes into consideration what type of company you are based on your North American industry classification codes. And that is something you'll register with SAMS as, hey, here's what I do. And you'll have a code that says, hey, this is the type of company I am. And based on the type of company, it will actually reach out and take a look at all of the associated contracts. And it will turn around and say, hey, well, based off of this contract's needs, your North American industry classification code is good. You should probably bid on this job. And it's inexpensive. We're talking a few $100s a year, when back in the day, we used to have something called the Dodge Report. It was like a few $100s a month. So, I mean, it's a huge deal to turn around and be Apex Accelerator. Somebody's asked, can a non-vet access Apex Accelerator? I do believe the answer is yes. So it's we can definitely put you in front of them. You can ask the question, but I'm right up there at about 90% sure that it is a big yes. Okay. All right. So that's what I've got for you as far as my portion of just veteran owned small business. And are there any questions coming in off of the chat that maybe I can answer briefly? Again, you're going to find the My SBA certification knowledge base extremely helpful. There's a lot of information, a lot of FAQ, fantastic resource for sure. Anybody? Not seeing anything at the moment.
I have a question. I know
Yeah.
sometimes in our courses, a lot of people wonder, how do I know if my business is too small for a government contracting opportunity? Or is my business idea too big? So can you speak to a little bit of that and what your insight is on if a business is too small or too large to be eligible for bidding for a government solicitation?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer, Jasmine, on that, but I will say this, that when we take a look at just your business period, I mean, how big is the project, right? Can you align yourself to accomplish tasks, right? In comedy, there was a movie about they were actually bidding on delivering guns to the government. I think it was called the Dogs of War or War Dogs or something like that. But they took this huge, massive project and turned around and had to deliver on this thing. And when they got the contract, they were overwhelmed. And so it's possible that if you're not prepared for it and not really look at the scope of things, you could potentially overwhelm yourself. But I don't believe there's a size. I've got a friend of ours, and matter of fact, somebody who's worked with Business Impact Northwest, is doing graffiti cleanup for cities across the Pacific Northwest. And I can say that very impressive. It really kind of started her and a few of her friends and family members. And now she's grown to, quite an operation where she's hiring people and moving the needle for sure. But, she was a single mom trying to make a living, getting things going, and she's fantastic. And so I would suggest to you that there's, it's really about an inner check on your ability to accomplish tasks, because you sure in heck don't want to be in a situation where you take on a project you can't accomplish. Does that help, Jasmine?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a lot of the misconception around government contracting opportunities for small businesses is they think they may not qualify because they are just a cleaning service, or there it really truly is endless opportunities for those who are interested. If you take a look, you can see some of the contracting opportunities now, and your business could be small. And remember, you have to make up that 23% bracket to fulfill those government dollars every year. So I highly encourage, even subcontracting could be a good entryway. But yeah, thank you.
That's a good point, Jad, that the 23%, because we've had a few procurement managers off the military bases come to our classes And ultimately, when the day is over with, they struggle to try to find those small businesses. Hence the reason Apex Accelerators was even invented, right? So that's actually a good point on that 23%. I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, well, any more questions? If not, we're going to take just a quick 10-minute break here, and then we'll get back to our presentation with a special guest who I've had the pleasure of meeting, a vet who started a business, and we'll let Josh come in here in just a bit. 10-minute break. You. All right, well, welcome back, people. We are getting into our very important, and I'll say exciting, panelist that's going to come in and talk about his business. And so without further ado, let me introduce you to Joshua Yoakum, a physical therapist. He founded Crutch Carries LLC, an Idaho business, which I've had the pleasure to come watch him do a pitch contest in a couple of states out there. He was a Marine Corps veteran. He's licensed physical therapist with over 22 years of clinical experience. Combining his medical expertise and real world innovations, this is how his entrepreneurial journey started. Undergoing some reconstructive surgery left him on crutches, and for 5 months during that time, he experienced firsthand the frustration and loss of independence that comes with limited mobility, especially the simple immobility to carry a drink. And that's where the whole concept comes from. It's awesome. So determined to find a solution, Joshua designed the Crutch Carrier cup holder, the first bolt-in aluminum drink holder engineered specifically for mobility devices such as crutches and walkers. And I've seen it firsthand. It's pretty darn cool. Patent pending design inspired by bicycle water bottle holders, restores safety, hydration, and independence for people recovering from injury or living with long-term mobility challenges. And as I get older, I know these challenges so very frequently, unfortunately. Founded in 2024, Crutch Carriers is driven by a vision of becoming America's premier brand for functional premium mobility accessories, a veteran-owned company proudly made in the U.S., recognized for improving life on mobility devices throughout innovation and independence. Joshua, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate that introduction. My name is Joshua Yoakum. I'm a white male, 50 years old, white beard. I have reading glasses because I am getting old. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So does this work by, like, is the panelist like questions? Do you want me to kind of cover some of the questions that were sent to me? What's the format?
Let's do that. Tell them a little bit about, if anything I missed in your introduction, tell them a little bit about the products, and then of course some of the Q&A's already sent to you, and then I'll ask you some further questions.
Okay, perfect. Will do. Thank you. So as Michael had mentioned, my journey is one that did not occur because I was a physical therapist. My 22 plus years in clinical experience, I thought I really understood what recovery was all about, the roller coaster ride, the difficulty in it. But it was not until I had my own injury where I fractured my femur. I slipped on the ice, fractured my femur, and the fracture occurred because I had a bone tumor we did not know about. So it was rather a blessing in disguise because we found the bone tumor. They reconstructed my leg, and I spent 5 months on crutches. And during that recovery, I learned really fast that my loss of independence was exacerbated even further. So I had to ask my wife to do a simple thing, carry my glass of milk from the refrigerator to the kitchen table 10 feet away every single day. And, I'm an independent person. I don't like to ask for help. And I found that very frustrating. As a cyclist, a triathlete, I just took the bicycle water bottle cage off my bicycle and I used it. And it helped, but that was not what it was designed for. It was designed for a bicycle. And so one day I sat there and I said, I can do better than that. And so I used that concept and I made it specifically for walkers and crutches. And what I found is that it drastically improved my quality of life with the time I was on crutches. And as I have started crutch carries and I've been getting traction and I've been getting some trickle sales, people have had this product, it makes a huge difference in a person's life. I'll give you just a quick example here. My neighbor knew knew about crutch carries, and she called me one day and said, "Hey, do you have any prototypes available?" I was like, "I got the real thing. Do you want one?" She goes, "Yeah. My mom broke her ankle, and when I picked her up from the hospital, she was on her walker. The first thing she did was, 'Here, carry my drink.'" And so my neighbor said, "Yeah, I know a guy." So she called me, got a crutch carries drink holder for her mom on her walker, and her mom doesn't need help anymore for that simple task. And so it completely transformed her mom's life during that recovery by having just a very simple product that increases independence. So my favorite part about being an entrepreneur is it's a challenge. Every day is a challenge. Every day there's something that I have to do to improve myself, improve crutch carries in the business in order to gain traction. No day is I wake up and there's this magical success story. It's a process where I've had to redefine myself from a veteran and a physical therapist to now I'm an entrepreneur. And it's a whole different level of learning. I'm learning something new every single day in order to make crutch carry successful and to transform people's life. The one thing that I did find, I had spent years as a social media consumer, meaning, I'd scroll and I'd read a post and I consumed, but I never posted a whole lot. So I have found that social media is very important to get the product out there. And it's not just paid advertising. Paid advertising, you burn through cash unbelievably fast. But having a marketing campaign, and I very recently discovered this, where you have to post all the time to educate people to grow that audience. And so that's a learning process for me. Real quick, we had a question on patents. Melissa had asked, do I have a patent for the process? Yes, I have a pending patent. When I first discovered this, I thought it was a great idea. And I said, surely somebody's thought of this. So I did a very in-depth search, found out nobody had actually developed it. And so I went and I secured a provisional patent. I used a patent attorney because the process is a beast. Taking medical jargon with, legal jargon with medical jargon, engineering, and you got to combine it all into one for your patent process. So I filed the provisional patent, and then a year later, once I had dialed in the design and how it was going to work, then I filed the non-provisional patent. So I do have a pending patent on the design. Thank you for that question. My military experience, I think, is critical to making it as far as I've made it. The one thing I learned as a Marine is I can do things that I never thought I could do. And hard things become very rewarding, but it's not without hard work. And as an entrepreneur, especially as a person in his 50s that has shifted to be an entrepreneur, it's a learning curve. I've had to learn to do things that I have no experience in. I've had to find resources. I've had to find out how to build a business, create a business, build a business, how to network, how to do all the things to become a successful entrepreneur. And I'm still learning. And my military background is critical to that process, because there's a lot more defeat that occurs as an entrepreneur than there is success. The success occurs, but you get knocked down a lot. And you got to pick yourself up, dust off, say, okay, what am I going to learn from that? and just keep on charging ahead. So being a veteran, I would say, has been critical to the success that I've had so far, and in the success that I expect to have in the near future. There is a concern that COVID may be on the rise again. And if that happens, how do I adapt as an entrepreneur? Luckily, I do not have a brick and mortar store. I don't sell anything in person. I'm still operating out of my house. However, supply chains can be a significant impact in the future. So the one thing that I'm considering and I'm always looking at doing is, what are my options from a supply chain standpoint? Who are my suppliers? Do I have a backup? Is the backup cost effective? And can I access that backup in order to meet my production demands? And so that's something that I have recently been looking at, because if the demand increases, but I don't have the product to supply that demand, it's a rough thing, and supply chain can make a huge difference on that. The one thing I wish I had known when I started this journey as an entrepreneur, if someone had told me, was it's not easy. I'm not going to lie. I had this false sense of, I got this great idea that is going to improve everybody's life and it's going to take off and it's just going to explode. But that's not the reality of being an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is grinding it out day in, day out. And not everybody is going to need the product and the solution that you have. And you have to realize that things don't take off. You have to build, not just step into the spotlight and everybody's going to think that, hey, yeah, I need that. And it's going to explode. You can make millions of dollars. With that being said, the one piece of advice I would give to anybody, to any business owner, is you have to know and you have to believe in what you're doing. And it's not money. Money cannot be the reason that you're a business owner or that you are an entrepreneur. You have to have a passion behind what you do and what you're building, because the money does not come for who knows how long. Sometimes you're losing money before you make money. But if you have the passion behind what you're doing and you believe in what you're doing, then the money's not important. Yes, we need money. I'm not saying that, but that cannot be the driving factor, because you will not succeed if it's all about money. You have to have a passion. You have to believe in what you're doing. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Any other questions out there?
There was some good insight. To really appreciate that a ton. Well, let me ask you this. I think that, I've had the pleasure of meeting you out in Idaho, and then of course you came over into Washington. I had the pleasure of meeting you there. Do you feel like since you started your business, you're getting an awful lot of networking opportunities out there?
Absolutely. The networking is one of those things that I'm finding every single opportunity to join a webinar, to join a pitch contest, to go to an event, builds your network and builds people that you know, whether it's a direct consumer or it's a resource that you may need in the future. That my network has grown exponentially in the past 8 months since I really dug in and started getting involved in everything I could get involved in. And it's been awesome. I've met people all walks of life throughout the Pacific Northwest, across the country, people that I never thought I'd come in contact with just by getting involved. Even though it doesn't increase the bottom line, money, the networking is critical to the resources that we need to build. And you never know who you might need to give a call, send an email to, said, hey, I need some help. What do you think? So the networking has been critical and has grown exponentially in the past 8 months.
Yeah. There's an old book called Think and Grow Rich, and it was a book regarding, surrounding yourself with a mastermind. It's kind of the concept. Do you feel like this networking has actually increased your thinking related to changing the product, adding new products, things like that?
Yes, it has, because as you network, people ask questions. They may not understand your passion. They may not understand your underlying drive, but they're seeing a product and they'll ask questions. And every time you get a question, you have to analyze, is my product the best product that I can have, or do I need to make changes? And you get that through professional networking. Obviously, customer feedback is critical. And what the product I have now is not what I had a year ago. And a lot of that has
cool.
to do with product, customer feedback. Hey, this is good, but you need to change A and B, or it would be better if. And so then I'm constantly analyzing. But from a professional standpoint, people ask questions of business model, what's your drive, what's your purpose? And you really have to start digging deep and understanding why you do what you do. And so not only has my product changed, but my business plan, my business purpose has grown through the feedback and the questions that network has asked me, or the feedback they've given me as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, it's funny sometimes, especially as we work with fellow veterans, people come to me, they want to be, I like to say, the Amazon of today before they're the Amazon of yesterday. And that Amazon of yesterday, of course, was a book retailer or online e-commerce program, right? Now, of course, what can't you get from Amazon, right? So I appreciate that insight, because I think there's probably fellow veterans out there that have a hard time really identifying. Your product came out of almost a necessity of solution, but getting down to that one product, was there, when you got to that one product, I mean, you're saying, can I launch this? Tell me a little bit about how that felt. What said, let's start here and maybe we'll finish big, type of thing?
So great question. I had the benefit when I was going through my recovery. I was still working as a clinician. I went to work every day on crutches. It was kind of sad. You couldn't tell who was the therapist and who was the patient, because we're both on crutches with the brace, right? However, throughout that journey, I was very open about, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? And so I was getting real-time feedback from patients that were either on crutches or had been on crutches. I was like, hey, if you had one of these, would you buy it? And they go, oh my gosh, yeah, because when I was on crutches, I couldn't do A, B, C, and D. And so I was getting that real-time feedback, which really kind of validated my own thoughts. Okay. Now, then it's different when you're selling to somebody that you don't know. And so that kind of made a big difference. But kind of going to your point of being the Amazon of tomorrow, I think it's important to have your big vision. Like, what's your end game, right? Right now, I'm selling one drink carrier at a time. But I do have that big vision of my end game, right? My big vision is, how come when you're at the doctor and you're given a set of crutches, you're just given a set of crutches, but nothing else that improves your life with them? How come you're not given the crutches, and then along with that crutches, hey, here's your bag of accessories, your phone carrier, your drink carrier, anything else that you might need, boop, gets issued with it, right? Yeah, that's a very ambitious end game goal, but you can't focus on that. You have to focus on the day-to-day improvements to get there.
I appreciate that insight. Yeah,
We have
you're
one
saying that
other.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr.
So the question is AI one of the learning curves that you have to learn today and is critical to your success today? Yes. Where is it most likely didn't exist in the building phase? So AI, I have learned within the past 3 months how to leverage AI. AI does not take the work, but it improves your ability to be more efficient in the work. And I had not used AI. Honestly, I kind of was like, I want to stay away from AI. But I've learned that AI is a critical piece to improving efficiency, improving comprehension of what you're doing, and being able to build greater than what I can do on myself. Only one person, but AI has been a very big thing. And I wish that I had done it from the very beginning, because there would have been some not trouble, but some stumbling blocks that I probably could have gotten through a lot faster had I leveraged AI. And so AI has been a very important piece of what I'm doing now. And I think it's very important for all business owners to know AI. I was at the Boise Entrepreneur Week military pitch track, and they talked about AI. And AI, the one thing that I took out of the AI panel was, AI is not going to replace you, but if you don't learn how to leverage AI, somebody else will, and you're not going to get ahead, because someone else will take over because they're going to leverage the resources available. So AI is a very important piece.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Well, I tend to agree. I mean, in our day to day, I've always suggested that utilizing AI for information is important. Funny enough, the AI doesn't always get it right, so just
No.
double check your facts.
There's not. You're right.
But it definitely broadens the thinking. That's for sure. I believe in that for sure. What other questions does anybody else have that we can bring to Jasmine? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I got the opportunity to see your presentation at Impact Pitch. For those who don't know, like, this is a very unique device, or not a device, a contraption. Is that a better word for it?
Device.
Yeah, that works.
Innovative contraption that's super useful. My mom had knee surgery last summer. So she was out of count for months, right? And for a good portion of the time, she had to utilize crutches. So I can say firsthand, because I took the time to work remotely from New Jersey to take care of her, because I'm the most reliable child she has. And so I was behind her with her Stanley Cup and her phone and her bike, like her things from upstairs to downstairs. So personally, I understand division. Now, there are probably people who don't understand division. So did you find that it was kind of a difficult journey, or along the way of your innovation or your process, that people would maybe look at you as if you were maybe a little crazy, or they didn't understand it? Did that deter you? Did that motivate you? Because so many small business owners go through some sort of like those motions. And so how did you deal with it? And did you go through any of that?
Yes, there has been some of that, because people kind of look as like, well, that's just a simple drink here. What are you building a business around it for? And that's where, Jasmine, I think it goes back to what I was saying. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing, because that's where the passion and the drive comes. If it's all about the money, then it will fall apart. But if you have that passion, when people look at you kind of crazy, they're like, really, you're building a company off just drink holders? Like, what's up with that? There are some that already exist on the market. But you have to have that passion and the understanding of the why you're doing what you do. Otherwise, you'll get discouraged, because it is discouraging. Every day there's some discouragement. The other thing that I have found along with that as well is there's a lot of education. I think, and there may be business owners that can corroborate this, or maybe they don't have to go through this, but you have to educate the consumers, you have to educate people, and you have to educate to help them see why you're doing what you're doing. Without that education, it's just a cool looking piece of metal that goes on crutches. Who cares? But to really understand the impact and what it is, it takes a lot of education. And you can do that through social media, through networking, by talking to everybody. Now, when I'm on the street and I see someone on a crutches or walker, it's like, hey, did you know, right? Constantly having to educate people and make them aware. Otherwise, it gets frustrating. And so it can be frustrating at times, but I would say that's where you have to really know the why of what you're doing. Otherwise, the frustration can be overwhelming.
So, thank you very much for that. Do we have any more questions out there for Joshua, how's the weather in Idaho?
It's getting cold. It's today's an overcast day. It's getting cold. The snow's coming. You can feel the snow's on its way.
Thank God you're not on crutches during the snow.
Absolutely. Been there, done that. Don't want to do it again.
Not fun. Not fun at all. Not fun at all.
No.
Well, number one, we really appreciate you coming out and sharing your adventure and your story with us. And thanks again for your service. I really appreciate you a bunch. And I almost feel like we're old friends now that it's about our third time interacting here. So
Absolutely.
I love it.
And I just want to express gratitude to Business Impact Northwest for everything. It's a great organization. I have grown exponentially through my involvement with Business Impact. And thank you for Operation Entrepreneur. Like, this is a great resource. And I just want to thank everyone for allowing me to be here.
Yeah, it's a good question out here. And it says, how can I narrow down my initial steps for my business, especially if it's a product people can use, like Joshua's idea? You mind if I field that?
Yeah, go ahead. Please do.
Okay. First and foremost, one of the biggest things is identifying what problem you're solving. And once we identify the problem that you're solving, then we can start taking a look at how many people have that problem. And then from there, we can say, okay, do we have an opportunity here? And once we really kind of focus on that, and I like to say business is a mathematical equation. It's quantitative. X number of people, and this is Joshua, you were directly involved with physical therapy. You saw the day in, day out of people getting knee surgeries and hip surgeries and so on and so forth. So, I mean, you could almost pick up the clipboard and say, here's the quantitative data right here in front of me, right? And that was just in your local area. You go exponentially across whatever. So I say, and this is what I'll suggest to that question, number one, don't be afraid to work with a business coach. We're free of charge. And I love doing this stuff. Really kind of getting to that quantitative dig of what problem we're solving. And then number two, let's start building a prototype. Matter of fact, talk to that, Joshua, if you don't mind. Did you use a 3D printer or something? And what was the first prototype?
So my prototype, honestly, I started with a piece of paper and a pen. And then I started figuring out how I'm going to create, like, I did concept to production 100% on my own. And it was literally a month to 2 months of trial and error. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let me try this. Let me try this. Let me try this. It was a nonstop trial and error. But going along the line of the prototype, creating the prototype, first of all, the thing that I would recommend creating a prototype, make sure you protect that idea, because people can steal your idea. Stealing intellectual property is a real problem. So protect that prototype and protect that idea, whether it be through non-disclosure agreements when you're talking to someone, getting some feedback. Go and talk to a patent attorney, say, hey, what's the best way to protect this as I'm developing my prototype? Because as you're developing your prototype, you're going to need feedback from users, from people, and you need to protect that so someone else doesn't say, hey, you know what? They told me this idea, and I'm going to steal it because I have the resources that person doesn't have, and I can accelerate the process. So that can happen. But creating the prototype, protect that prototype, protect your IP. There are a lot of resources. I know Business Impact, I believe, they have some resources on protecting IP as well. And that might be something to follow up on. I can't remember. I did not go through Business Impact. But then also touching on what you said, Michael, is contact a business coach early in the process. I didn't. I was full in, and then I was like, oh, business coach, ooh, I got a back step because I missed a lot of steps that I could have avoided. So that's something to keep in mind.
Gotcha. Appears to be another question related in that line, which is a budget question, and how do we budget so that we don't lose our shorts in that process?
Yeah.
You want to talk to how you came up with how much you're going to spend to get your prototype going?
So So that's a great question. And, as I was going through the process, I contacted engineers. There's a lot of companies out there that if you give them the idea, they will create your prototype. But it can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000, depending on who you're working with. I didn't have that much money, right? I missed a lot of work. I was out with a bone tumor, recovering, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually did it all myself in terms of buy a little part here, buy a little part there, and figure it out. And so really the budget, it has to do with what kind of capital do you want to use? Do you want to use your time? That's capital, right? Time is money. How much time capital do you want to invest in it? Because if you're willing to use minimal budget, minimal cost, but put a ton of time in, you can do it for very minimal cost. I did. Or if you're like, you know what? I got financial resources. I got $10,000 that I want to use. Then there are resources out there to help that you can access other people, engineers that can create CAD designs, manufacturing, et cetera. So it really depends on how much money capital you have or how much time capital and which one do you want to use.
That's great insight. That's great insight. Absolutely good. You wanted to finish up with something else there?
No. I was just asking. I hope that answers the question.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to add to it. I think I'm going to add to the fact that one of the nice things about working with a business coach, I take a look at things from a financial perspective. Because again, right back to my statement, business is a mathematical equation. And one of those things is, hey, how much money do I need to start just to start this business before I even get to sell anything, right? That's something that we're looking at. It's like, okay, how much it's, and I've worked with people that have spent $250,000 on a piece of software that they've had to scrap before, and then they were going to redo it again. And I'm sitting there going, man, that's a lot of money. Don't get into oil drilling, by the way. That's exactly what they asked for. It's about $250,000 to drill down to see if there's any oil there. And then if there isn't, well, thanks for the $250,000. So the point really being is that we can build a budget around that and identify, hey, how much sweat equity do we need to put in there at the time, or compared to how much money can we use to get this thing off the ground?
And if I can kind of piggyback on that, Michael, as
Absolutely.
well, on the budget question, it takes time to build sales. And so my recommendation, and this is something that I did, I run a very lean operation, meaning I use my time capital instead of my money capital. And so with that, I can go a long ways before I go belly up, because I don't have a lot of overhead. My time capital is my strength. And so it can be done without dumping a lot of money. If you know the why and you're passionate about it and you find a way, you can do it with minimal cost. And then, like Michael said, using a business coach can help you streamline that to make you're doing it more efficiently. And then you don't have to take on all kinds of debt. And then you can't pay that debt back. Business is insolvent, right? And the business goes belly up. And so really, I think it's a combination of those two.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Josh. All right. Can you file for a patent application via get more information on patent types? Oh, Jasmine's putting in some information related to filing a patent.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's
great.
always
Thank
good
you.
information for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Intellectual property is a big key in today's businesses. That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Any other last minute questions that can pop in on the web chat? I just want to thank Jasmine and also Melissa for putting those links out there for the coaching. Anybody that needs coaching, please sign up. It's free of charge. We can spitball ideas. We can get right into the mix of your business. I've worked with anybody from making $0 to people making 2.5 million plus. So just kind of depends on what you're trying to find. I myself, I'm a business owner. I have an accounting background. So I tell people I'm an accountant, but I'm not your accountant. So I'm going to give you a lot of information, but I want you to go talk to your accountant with my information. We can't give you legal or accounting advice directly.
The business coach resource is absolutely great. My coach through Business Impact has been Paige Wiscombe, and she's been instrumental in my growth. And even though, Business Impact pitch competition is over, Paige, I still look at Paige as my business coach, and she helps me out. She's a resource that I can continue to reach out for. So the business coach is very, very important, and I recommend everybody does that.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, I think we're probably ready to start shuttering up here. First and foremost, thank you everybody that attended today. And Joshua, thank you very much for coming and sharing your path and your venture with us. I'd like to thank some of our partners, SBA, USDA, BECU, Harbor Credit Union, Verity Credit Union, Washington State Employee Credit Union. These, without their support, we couldn't accomplish this task, and we really appreciate that. And with that, I think that can do a video chat for me. Okay. Okay. All right. Unfortunately for me, I may be able to do a little quick chat with you. Maybe what I'll do is give you a phone number that you can contact me, because I'm not the host of this platform, so I can't maintain this open. But I could potentially give you a phone number you can contact me at. I'll put that into, and then I can just briefly speak to you. But unfortunately, I'm also on the way to a plane to do another event somewhere else. So I can speak to you briefly, and then we can get you assigned to a coach and see who your coach is. Do it that way. Let me just verify that is my. Let's see. When you don't call yourself, you never know. Part of the for sure. I'm going to do that, then anybody's welcome to call me. Of course, I'll take your call. You can also text to that number. So I will be happy to field a few direct questions if you'd like that. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask the host to close us up and stop recordings, and we'll call this a day. Thank you very much again, and we'll see you day 2 tomorrow. We're going to have a good Alaska VBOC group that's going to come in and work with you tomorrow.